Hello, everyone, and thank you all for all the speakers and the attendees of this webinar session. And thank you for participating in our webinar today on building a sustainable space economy, its challenges and opportunities. I'm Amy Gracia. I'm the lead analyst here at BIS Research within the Aerospace and Defense vertical, and I'll be your moderator for today's webinar. Now, what we understand is, I think everybody who works in the space industry or the space ecosystem understands now that the space economy is growing rapidly, and with that growth comes new challenges and its opportunities. And in this webinar, we will be able to explore these key challenges in building a sustainable space economy, as well as the opportunities that exist for businesses, governments, and the individuals who will play a key role in this space ecosystem. And today we are fortunate to have five distinguished speakers. We have Timo, who is the founder of the Sustainable Space Economy, and his greatest passion is to execute towards sustainable space economy. Next, we have Sumana Mukherjee. Sumana is the founder of Sustainaverse, which is a digital magazine which brings in together both the worlds of sustainable fashion and sustainable space exploration. Next in line, we have Daniel Malik. He is the project manager at Solunox. He is an aerospace engineer with a relentless passion for innovation and technology. Another speaker we have today is Rosie Kane. She is the Cluster Development Manager at Space Wales, who is driving forward the growth and innovation of the space sector in Wales. Next, we have is Pekka Janhunen. He is a research manager at the Finnish Meteorological Institute. And last but not least, we have Rajat Srivastav. He is also the lead analyst here at BIS Research within the aerospace and defense vertical. Now, just to go through what we are going to cover under this webinar session today. Over the next 90 minutes, we will be discussing on the major space tech trends, the key developments that are enabling space sustainability, what are those key industry challenges and the potential consequences, why there is a need for sustainable space economy, the importance of sustainable space economy, how do we benefit from that, and the technologies for the sustainable use of space. Now, post this, we will be discussing the key takeaways and the concluding remarks as well, after which we will have a question and answer session. Now, just to let all the attendees know that now during the entire session, if you have any questions, please feel free to put down the questions in the chat box and we'll get it to it once we enter the Q&A segment. Now, without further ado, let's get started. We have an informative and engaging session ahead of us. And with that, I would like to start with talking about more in terms of the major trends that are happening within the space industry. Now, within these past 3 to 4 years, we have seen a lot of new space participants coming into the picture. As you can see here, we have mentioned that the growing small satellite market. Now, at BIS Research, we do maintain an internal satellite database wherein we update it every quarterly. And on the basis of that, what we've seen and witnessed is that the small satellite market is growing gradually. Now we have constellations as of the August 2023. We are seeing constellations being installed, and that number is 163. And the launch forecast from 2023 to 2023 is around 47,000 and 786 satellites that will be launched in the next 10 years. Now, this is quite a huge number, and this is one way that how the space ecosystem is looking to be presenting a lot of opportunities, not only for the government space agencies but all the new space participants who are going to enter this market. In terms of space sustainability as well, we are looking at new products, new solutions, new services that these new space participants, along with the government space agencies like NASA, ESA, are looking into those types of solutions which will be catering or which will be furthering, the kind of sustainability that this space sector is looking at. Now, what is really important here is what we need to understand, that how the growth in the satellite satellite launches is, again posing a challenge towards the congestion of space debris, any type of junk which is, of the space assets. Now, here, what is important is that we need to have a robust space situational awareness or space debris removal services. We have dedicated small satellite deployer solutions. The industry is also looking at, reusable launch systems, and as well as the next generation propulsion solutions like electric propulsion, green propulsion, or propellantless propulsion systems. Now, these are the things which are evolving in the market every now and then. The space industry is coming up with new technologies, new systems, new solutions, and as a part of that, we are also seeing new customers entering the market. We're also seeing new use applications in the market, and through that, we're looking at an enhancement through the deployment of and using these space-based capabilities. Now, when we talk about the developments happening in space, we also need to understand that the government agencies, sorry, that the government agencies as well as the new space participants or the commercial entities who are participating in the space ecosystem need to work together. As we can see here, that there are initiatives which are looking to ensure the long-term space sustainability. Now, these are few of the what we can see in the slide is a few of the initiatives which are happening, which are being currently conducted by various organizations across the globe. And just recently, in on September, the FAA basically is proposing a new rule to limit the growth of new orbital debris and reduce the potential for collisions with spacecraft and satellites, so that to promote a sustainable space environment. Now, it's important to understand that not only government space agencies are working towards space sustainability, but even the commercial space participants are introducing and providing sustainable products and services. For instance, some of the companies which are working on, towards achieving the sustainability includes Pale Blue, which is a Japanese startup and brings in sustainability in fuel usage by adopting water as the propellant for space mobility. Then we have other companies like Okapi Orbits, which is a German space startup, Spaceforge, which is a UK-based startup, and Cislunar Industries, which is a US-based startup. Now, these are just few companies within the growing new space participants. I believe that the entire space ecosystem will be able to achieve the space sustainability goals when we work together as one. Now, looking forward, we also have the sustainable spacecraft solutions being offered by these companies. Now, to talk more on these sustainable spacecraft solutions, I would like to call upon Rajat. Over to you, Rajat.
Hi, thanks, Amy, for your insights on major space tech trends which you have just shared. So moving further, I will talking about the sustainable spacecraft solution. So basically, I will talk about firstly from the manufacturing side. And when we look into the manufacturing side, for instance, when we're talking about in space manufacturing, which is like one of the growing industry right now and holds immense significance for the future of space exploration and sustainability. It basically addresses the like traditional challenges of Earth to space transportation, or like we can say like to enable by the process of this to create the components or the structure and tools directly in the space environment. So, for example, if we take in like Airbus, like which was selected by the European Commission in 2021 to study on the spacecraft manufacturing in space through their particular Horizon 2020 program. Apart from that, like also if we see with the use of the 3D printing technology or the in space manufacturing like offers like diverse application from producing spacecraft components and repairing space assets to constructing habitats for extended missions. Similarly, like major companies like which are working currently in this particular domain is like Made in Space or the Tetras Unlimited or the Red Wire Space, or we can say the Nanorex is also there, which are currently working towards at the forefront in particularly in space manufacturing for developing like various technology or services that are essential for the future of space exploration and sustainable space solution basically. So this particularly emerging field promises to play a pivotal role in facilitating sustainable long duration mission and expanding the like frontiers of space exploration while fostering the international any particular collaboration we are talking about or innovations. Similarly, when we are talking about the another development that is the major that is the electric propulsion, which currently shows a game-changing innovation in space travel. Like it particularly offers a host of advantages for spacecraft propulsion, basically, and efficiency, while significantly reducing the any particular need of heavy propellant loads we are talking about. So it particularly enables the spacecraft to carry more payloads or travel a long distance. So in this we can say that in a near future, the electric propulsion or the in space manufacturing is poised to transform space exploration or the satellite operation. Similarly, we in the like if we talk about the launch vehicle industry, so the if we know that the current space launch market serves majorly three broad categories, that is a small, medium, or the heavy. Or when we are talking about the advent of the new players currently in the SLV market, along with the rapid advancement in the development of any production facilities which particularly lower the cost for their particular customers, and increasing the demand of this particular launch vehicle. So, however, like use of rocket motors and the partially reusable launch platforms still have a high cost associated with them. So, like this is a key opportunity for them to develop a alternative of like air breathing propulsion technology we have seen with single stage to orbit to capabilities to serve to any particular like the near space or the or for the LEO market we are talking about. So, when we see this particular launch vehicle market, so companies such as Reaction Engine and specifically for the air breathing propulsion. So, companies such as Destinis is their hypersonics launch and the Reaction Engine, I've mentioned, have made a like considerable progress in this developing competitive air breathing platforms and are poised to enter this like niche market with competitive launch services to existing LEO service clients. Similarly, particularly their air breathing platforms are expected to be a cost-effective alternative to the current LEO launch vehicles, with the adoption of advanced propulsion technology such as like scramjets or rocket-associated propulsion. So the design of platforms basically resembles hyperplanes with horizontal takeoff and landing capabilities, and the services they offered in this segment are expected to cover like almost suborbital delivery of cargo to spaceports or like limited LEO based any particular satellite services or the debris management. Also, like we have seen the key challenges that impact their success upon launch include the availability of spaceports or their payload capacity, operational cost, or the like any part of repair of airframes and the avionics required to descend safely from hypersonic speeds to subsonic landing basically. So we have seen like multiple launch vehicle developers are also evolving their launch vehicle targeting the small satellite market. Like many of them are aspiring to support or achieve the market multiple launches a year ranging from one every month to one every week. So this particularly indicates that the launch vehicle manufacturing is also adopting a serial production format. So when we say that because this adds the basically the risk similar to that of serial production of satellite, a system of failure at the satellite level that can be like tolerated or can be replaced without much damage to the entire system. But a failure at the launch vehicle level will result into the loss of mission. So establishing a reliability in a sustainable manner within the launch vehicle manufacturing and is a very critical for the success of the space industry. So apart from these key developments, we have seen some major challenges as well. So apart from these focus area, if we're talking about several challenges as well. So like if we talk about growing concern around the orbital debris, as Amy has also mentioned that, and which cast a shadow over the future of space activities. So as the launch of number of satellites or the defense spacecraft or the discarded rocket stages had led to a dangerous accumulation of space debris and creating a risk of like collision that could generate more debris in a cascade effect. So this particularly threat are not only for operational satellites and critical space infrastructure, but also poses as a grave challenge to the sustainability of future space endeavors. Simultaneously, if we talk about the congestion of orbits and the radio frequency spectrum, coupled with an increasing potential for interference or raise significant question about the safe and responsible use of outer space. So to safeguard our presence in space and protect the environment in which it thrives, international collaboration or the regulatory measures or the development of any particular space traffic management solution. So this become a paramount in mitigating this escalating concern. So in a similar way, if we talk about the need for bulk requirement and holding of a large inventory of subsystem or a component has also become a significant challenge in the dynamic business environment. So the practice can be like considerable capital or creating financial strain and impacting cash flow. But moreover, like the rapid race of any particular technological advancement or the changing market demands, like which can render large inventories obsolete or less competitive, which results into the potential losses also. So I just want to add additionally that the storage and maintenance of the extensive inventories may incur additional cost and require significant warehouse space. So in light of these challenges, business are increasingly exploring learner and more agile supply chain strategy. So to balance the benefits of bulk procurement with the need for flexibility and response will evolve the market condition in the near future. So that's all from my side. I think to talk more on the activities and the developments of sustainable space economy, I will invite over Timo. So, over to you, Timo.
Thank you. And thank you for BIS Research hosting this webinar together with Sustainable Space Economy. And thank you to my dear friends on the line. Especially, I'm extremely happy to have so much woman power today. And I believe in equality, so that maybe women are even better in space business than men. But the key thing today is that I want to provide you diversity and different kind of views to the sustainable space economy together with all presenters. So, and then I'm the founder of Sustainable Space Economy, and I'm also top person to follow and top networker in aerospace on LinkedIn. So if you are not in my network yet, please connect with me on LinkedIn. Next slide, please. And why sustainable space economy? I guess we all know why. The whole space industry is forecasted to grow very, very quickly. And it can help things on Earth and helping the sustainability activities. But the key question is that since the space industry is growing so heavily, can we utilize this race in the best possible way so that we can improve quality of life on Earth to all of us? Doesn't matter where you live. And then can we utilize space in sustainable way, avoiding hazard chemicals and space debris? And then also remembering that we have future generations, we need to help them because they are not decision makers at the moment. So next slide, please. I already mentioned this vision earlier, and now I will be explaining in more details what it means. So as sustainable space economy, we are result-focused and collaborative global platform. And we want to empower people to drive excellence and innovation with a major impact on sustainable space economy. And everything started from the key thing that I have two daughters, 19 and 14 years old. And I wanted to think what kind of heritage I want to give to my daughters. And I started to create a vision. And I started from Timo and the laptop way. And people started to listen. And now we are getting further and further with this vision. And next slide, please. So we are truly a global player. So this is the amount of visitors in our website. And you can see that most of the active space business countries are covered here. And we are growing even further. And we want to be, so next slide, please. So we want to show this global value-based leadership as an execution focus because we love execution. Talk is talk, but execution is important. Want to be also non-political, independent, and private social enterprise. So we focus on good things. And we want to bring the whole space ecosystem together. Different players in the upstream and downstream, or even companies which are not active in space yet. We bring together space lawyers, we bring together media companies, so the whole space ecosystem. And since we work globally, we will have SSC action boards in all key regions which are active at the moment in space business, and we are getting further there as well. SustainableSpaceEconomy.com will be the place where all the key things happen in web. And we have two ways how we work. So like I was saying that it's a private social enterprise, so we have non-profit part there, operation opportunities around the world. And the next thing will be in Paris Space Week. We will have a 100 square meter sustainable pavilion there in March next year. And to get money, we also have these consultancy services. We help companies to execute towards sustainable space economy. And we have deep pockets. We have funding up to 1 billion euros. So nobody can say that I don't have the money. So try to make sure that together with the partners, we can offer the full package to everybody. They just need to agree the vision first. And the next one, please. And our slogan, impact through collaboration. I see myself more like an orchestra leader and bringing right type of people together. And sometimes I even want to be behind the curtains, but I enjoy when the people with the right attitude and with the right passion work together. And if you want to know more, please visit sustainablespaceeconomy.com. Thank you for my part.
Thank you so much, Timo, on providing your insights on how sustainable space economy is working towards achieving the sustainability for space, and how we need to ensure that through space sustainability we can ensure that our future generations will be able to benefit from that. Now, next we have Sumana Mukherjee, who is going to discuss on the importance of the sustainable space economy. Over to you, Sumana.
Thank you, Amy. Thanks so much. It's a pleasure to be here, to be with all of you. And also, it makes me happy that we already have people interested in this topic. So that motivates us, and also with my fellow respected panelists. So thank you for having me here. And I'm very excited to speak about something that I really care about, along with everyone here. And because I also come from a space background, I really want to focus on the connection between space technology and sustainability, and that they are not different from each other. I would like to focus on two key themes. Whoever is watching right now, I would like to say that there are two main key themes. First is that space technology does help with sustainability initiatives on Earth. And the second thing is that even if all space companies are not sustainable space companies, but they need to integrate sustainability as an aspect, as a part of the space economy landscape. So if you could please go to the next slide. So I generally do not prefer starting any presentation with gloomy pictures, but here I've put this because we have a common conception among many of us that we are not going to die of climate change tomorrow, so we can postpone sustainability discussions. And this is why I've put it, because unfortunately, this is the harsh reality that majority of the population is living in. So we are fortunate if we don't see these things, if pollution is not so visible around us. And if we are that fortunate to be not living in such extreme situations, I would say that you don't have to look outwards to see the effect of climate change. If you want to see the terrible effects of climate change, look at your health. Look at how you used to be 10, 20 years ago. You will find plenty of reasons to believe that climate change is a real problem. And you see my background. This is the earth we want to live in, not the ones we see on screen. So next slide, please. Now, coming to space technology, I know that space kind of astronomy has been a very old science. We have been looking at the stars for centuries. And who doesn't like to spend beautiful moments under the stars? But what I really want to stress upon is, especially after the growth of the space industry, the engineering technology aspect of it, space missions are not just about going to faraway planets or looking at very faraway stars. While that's an important aspect of space exploration and research, majority of the new companies that are coming up are actually not focusing on faraway exploration. These companies are focusing on developing the technologies to orbit the Earth with small satellites or affordable satellites. And even major space organizations for the past few decades have spent so much research energy as well as monetary resources to focus on Earth observation, what we call the Earth observation satellite missions. And the remote sensing satellites that we have are equipped with sensors and electronics that image the Earth on a regular basis. There are thousands of satellites doing that on a regular basis. And the kind of data that we get, so there are businesses and organizations working on the downstream aspect of space, where what happens is they take the satellite data and they process it, and then they take out insights out of it and give it to scientists and researchers who figure out how to observe the changes on the surface of the Earth as well as in the atmosphere. So the understanding that space and climate are separate, and we kind of vilify that space technology is all about creating pollution through rocket launches. I think it's time that we shift that narrative and say that for many years, for many, many years, we have been building satellites that have given us some amazing data to see what is happening on Earth. Next slide, please. These are just some of the aspects of space technology that helps us understand climate change as well as helps to come up with mitigation measures. We can, with the help of different kinds of advanced sensors and electronics, we can actually observe the change in temperature. We can observe sea level rise. There have been many occasions when we have observed the deforestation, the changes in the land use. We have observed the ozone layer, greenhouse emissions. These are all. So a satellite above Earth gives not just a pretty blue view of Earth, it also provides a vantage point to observe everything that's going on in Earth. So that's a great aspect of space research that has been harnessed by organizations for many decades now. And I think in the recent years, we have seen the importance of satellite imagery in the with the help of disaster management, because if we beat a hurricane or a cyclone, we have been able to track them. We have gone better at weather forecasting. And I think even if it's a, let's say, man-made disaster, even if it's a war, recent years, we have seen what kind of a crucial role satellite imagery plays in providing timely images. And last but not the least, I would like to say that we talk about clean energy on Earth, and we say that transitioning from fossil fuels to clean energy requires a lot of infrastructural changes. So there's been a lot of research going on to see if it is so difficult on Earth, maybe we could harness it in space, because sunlight is abundant in space. And there are many people working on finding out best ways to harness that solar power and transmit that back to Earth. So again, I'm going to stress on this point that yes, a lot of conversation goes on that space technology uses up taxpayers' money, and especially in developing countries, it's a concern because why spend so much in space research when you can help use that money to tackle other challenges? And I would just like to say that space research is used to tackle these challenges on Earth. The next slide, please. This is one beautiful presentation. I've got this from the European Space Agency website, where they have collected all the data that is provided by the Earth observation satellites. And this image, you see that this is the cryosat satellite, and the data it has provided actually helps us see the change in sea level thickness in the polar regions. This is a crucial data set that is used by majority of climate scientists and the people who study sea ice thickness to understand the melting of ice that is indicator of climate change, and also how to go beyond saying that it will take 100 years to reach a point when all of the ice will melt, because these are the data that they have used to come to a conclusion that we need to take a step forward right now. So this is real, and it's not, along with the beautiful galaxy images that you see, these are also the beautiful images that maybe we should be showing people even more to stop believing that space is not for Earth. Next slide, please. Now I'm going to come to the second theme of the presentation, and the next theme is that, yes, now we have seen that space helps Earth, and over the past 10-20 years, we have seen a growth of the new space startups all across the globe, and what we call the new space, like you mentioned in the beginning presentation. And yes, the new companies are developing technologies for better understanding of environment on Earth. They help with better resource utilization in countries like, say, India. In our country, what happens is the Indian Space Research Organization has always put a lot of focus on using space data to help agriculture in India. We are majorly an agriculture-based economy, and a lot of satellite data is still used to work on precision agriculture to help understand crop utilization. So this is a definitely an important part of any space mission for any space agency, I would say. And then, of course, like you mentioned in the beginning, such wonderful opportunities that the new companies can have if they want to go into sustainable space industry, which is that you can talk about tracking space debris, you can talk about greener propulsion systems, you can talk about in-space manufacturing. So there's a lot of opportunities for business opportunities also, not just research. A lot of business opportunities have come up through the adoption of sustainability in the space industry. And then the third point is definitely that I think it was the former US President Barack Obama who said that we are the first generation to really feel the effects of climate change, but we are the last generation who can do something about it. So I just want to say that someday you are going to probably have a daughter like me, and would you really like her to live in a world where she probably has to put a face mask all day? We definitely don't want that. And the last point is the orbital debris that you have mentioned before. And if we could go to the next slide. This is one picture that people probably outside space industry don't see often. And this is a snapshot of all these satellites around Earth. And it was taken very recently this week on the 9th of October. And why I'm showing this is the blue area that you see, these blue spots are the satellites that are active. The mission is going on. They are providing us something and we can communicate with them. Whereas all the pink dots you see are all inactive satellites. They constitute of rocket upper stages. And this is what constitutes space junk and space debris. And why it is important? It's like once a satellite goes into space, it cannot just roam about anywhere and everywhere. There's no pilot sitting on a satellite trying to drive it in a trajectory. The orbits of satellites follow the laws of physics. So if you have to, just because space is vast, it does not mean that you have enough space for so much debris. And imagine these satellites are probably going forward at over 7 kilometers a second. If it hits one important satellite that provides us some immense value, or if it hits the International Space Station, we have humans on that all the time. Imagine what will happen. If it falls down, if a huge debris falls down on Earth, imagine what will happen. And also, what I consider satellite in space is that it's like plastic on Earth. What happens is if you send a satellite, it is not going to degrade. Like plastic stays on Earth for hundreds of years. It is not going anywhere. What happens is if you lose control over it, it can do whatever it wants to. You have no control over it. It can damage all your space missions, and space missions are expensive and they can cost lives now. So the next slide, please. And this is why I started being so vocal about it, because there are wonderful people coming into the new space industry. And all I want to tell them is that sometimes when you talk about show people that dreaming about space is great because space offers adventure, space offers new opportunities. Definitely, it is the final frontier. But I would say that when you're starting out your company, or you have just established your space company, it is time to be a little mindful of what you are sending to space and how you're sending it. It's not just about what operations you're doing on Earth. It's also important to take into account what effects of your space mission are going to be there forever in space. And sustainability should, like Timo said, it's not should not be just as a corporate social responsibility. It should be an important decision maker in the field of business strategy as well as the technological development that we are doing. Yes, we need all your space products and services, but not at the cost of destruction. And the magazine that you talked about in the beginning, this is why I've just launched it as a magazine, because be it on Earth or space, sustainability is not about just a few people or just a few groups or organizations. Every individual needs to know. And that's why I chose magazine as a platform, because we all like to see, to read about articles or to see pretty pictures of people working in these solutions. So, and it actually came as a moment during a shopping session. I was buying some lots of cheap clothes from a fast fashion company, and suddenly it hit me. Maybe we have taken this idea of disposable clothes to space and built thousands of disposable satellites. So this is the endeavor that we're doing to bring together to two aspects of space and Earth sustainability together. And I'm so happy that I could share this story with all of you. And please let me know if you have any questions. The last one thing I would like to mention why it is so wonderful to be speaking here today is because I really admire all of the work you're doing. And Dr. Pekka is actually one of my first teachers. Almost 9 years ago, I was doing an internship in Estonia, and he was one of my first teachers who taught me about space. I'm very grateful to be here. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Sumana, for your insights. I think it's really important for us to understand, for anybody working in the space industry, that obviously mission operations are there, but it should not be at the cost of destruction. It should be a key decision making criteria at the corporate level to understand how we're going to make space sustainable and how their solutions and their services are going to achieve these goals. Now moving on to the next, we have Daniel Malik, who will be speaking on how to benefit from space.
Thank you, ma'am. My name is Daniel Malik. You all know that. I'm General Manager Projects at Solenox Private Limited, Pakistan, and I'm also an advisor for Advanced Rocket Technologies. I would like to thank Sustainable Space Economy and BIS Research to give me an opportunity to speak about how to benefit from space. So please, next slide. These are the contents I'll be covering today. Next slide, please. We can go on to the next slide. So, overview of the space industry. We've all read and heard that the space industry currently stands at $400 billion valuation. This is partly because in the recent years, there has been exponential growth in technology and a lot of private sector involvement in the space economy. So what we see for the projections of 2030 is that it's going to be a $1 trillion industry. That is because of the fact that it has not been a defense-related industry anymore. There's a lot of private sector involvement. There's a lot of entrepreneurial work. So it's becoming more of a global industry than only the spacefaring nations, which we used to see back in the 1970s. So the major segments of the space industry currently are satellite communication and Earth observation. But I'd like to talk about other sectors which are coming up. They're going to come later in the slides. So the industry has evolved, as we all know, and I'd like to talk about how the evolution is taking place. There are a lot of private companies involved in the space economy, such as SpaceX, which they have changed the traditional models, cheap access to space, numerous deployment of satellites in orbit. We're seeing a lot of European startups. We're seeing a lot of American startups coming into space technology, focusing on various applications and then coming up with solutions. So they're gathering lots of investors in this domain and working a lot towards achieving the target of a $1 trillion economy, the space economy in 2030. Emerging space nations such as China and India, they have in the recent years, they've had a very strong grip over the industry. Especially, I would like to mention India, how they have made space access much cheaper. And as we've seen, they're doing great work. So these models, they're always in a transition to become better and better. Technology advancement is another very important aspect that we've seen how additive manufacturing, how artificial intelligence, they are driving innovation in the space industry. And these technologies are not only reducing costs, but they have a very direct impact to other sister industries here on Earth. Next slide, please. So this is a visualization of how in the year 2016, it's going to compare with the year 2040. The source is Morgan Stanley. I've taken it from there. So you can see how new dimensions are being added and how the industry is going to grow. Next slide, please. So key sectors of the space economy are aerospace manufacturing, which produces spacecraft, which produces launch vehicles, and all the equipment essential for space exploration, driving technological innovation and job creation. Satellite communication, Earth observation, tourism, and mining. I'll come to that later on in the slides. Space research and development is foundation of all space endeavors, driving technological advancement, scientific discovery, and mission capabilities through collaboration between institutions and companies. Cross-sector collaboration is very important in the space industry, such as aerospace manufacturing supporting multiple sectors and fostering a space ecosystem where innovation is the key. Next slide, please. So satellite technology and data. These are the four main pillars of how we are benefiting from space in modern times. Communication, all general global communication networks, transmission of data, multimedia over long distances are happening through space. Now we are also seeing that internet connectivity and broadband availability is being promoted through satellite communications and bridging the digital divide. Satellite communication is crucial for emergency services, for military communication, and ensuring connectivity in challenging environments. We've also seen how 5G IoT is up and coming, and how we can connect all our assets, our digital assets, through a space network and communicate in a very efficient manner. Coming to navigation, satellite-based navigation systems such as GPS, they provide accurate positioning and timing information worldwide. GPS is the core for all transportation networks, for agriculture, precision agriculture, and outdoor recreation. Precise timing from the GPS systems is very important for financial transactions. Coming to Earth observation, it's the satellite continuous monitoring of the Earth's atmosphere, the Earth's surface, and providing valuable data for various purposes. Weather forecasting relies heavily on satellite data and timely response based on looking at the weather patterns, severe storms, and hurricanes. Agricultural benefits in nations like ours, which are reliant on agriculture as the primary industry. Satellite data is very crucial for crop yield analysis, for crop monitoring, for soil monitoring, and to enhance agricultural growth, driving the economy forward. Environmental agencies use satellite data for weather monitoring, for disaster management, and for timely looking into the impact of the climate change and coming up with strategies. Scientific research, as we all know, and also my colleague mentioned before, that space is a key to study your place in the universe. Space-based telescopes such as James Webb, such as the older versions of the Hubble Space Telescope. So those telescopes in space provide a much better view of the universe and our place in it and our place in the cosmos. Next slide, please. So benefits of satellite data is that companies and governments subscribe to satellite data services for real-time information, weather forecasts, and remote sensing data. Agriculture, as I mentioned before, farmers use satellite-based data for precision agriculture and optimizing crop yields and resource utilization. Environmental monitoring is a very key part that environmental agencies purchase satellite data to monitor deforestation, track wildfires, look at the impact of natural disasters. And then coming to the disaster management, that emergency services rely on satellite imagery for disaster response. After they have a very good view of the disaster taking place, they can plan ahead, and all mitigation of the natural disaster mitigation can take place in a very timely manner and in a very efficient way. Infrastructure planning, urban planners and construction workers use satellite data for land use planning, and as well as monitoring of the construction projects. When I talk about insurance companies rely on satellite data to actually assess the risk and manage claims and estimate the damages which are taking place. For maritime and aviation, the maritime industry relies heavily on satellites to monitor and track their vessels. It's very important for their safety and navigation. Airlines rely heavily on satellite data for flight planning and flight tracking. Financial services, again, I mentioned before that they use timing data from satellites, the precise timing data from satellites for secure transactions and high frequency trading. Next slide, please. So as you can see in this projection, that how from 2015 to 2040 the industry is growing, new type of satellites are being added into the whole space spectra, and how we can see that Earth observation satellites are increasing, especially satellite manufacturing is increasing exponentially. So we can see that we are on course for a $1 trillion economy by 2030. Next slide, please. So another very important aspect of space technology and how we can benefit from space industry is the emerging space tourism industry. So what is space tourism? It's basically taking private individuals up into space for orbital and suborbital flights as a way of recreation. The leading players we have seen recently are Virgin Galactic, Blue Origin, and SpaceX. They're all part of the emerging space tourism industry. But we have seen Virgin Galactic, coming up in the front in the recent days. So the revenue generation models and job creation aspect is very strong. We can have a high revenue in terms of ticket sales, merchandising, sponsorships, and marketing, and job creation from an aerospace engineer to a space tourism guide. We can have many jobs created, It's pretty expensive these days, $450,000 for a 90-minute flight. But we all want, especially the space enthusiasts, for the price to come down. So more research and development in this domain, and we'll be able to, probably, hopefully one day go into space and have a suborbital flight. So please, next slide. This is a picture of the inaugural suborbital flight, which I've taken from Virgin Galactic's website. Next slide, please. So potential for mining resources in space. So this is another area which has a lot of potential, and we can benefit heavily from this. Asteroid mining. Asteroids are rich in gold, in platinum, in rare earth elements. So, we can have a very strong aspect going to these asteroids, exploring them, and then mining the resources which these asteroids offer. So the estimated worth of elements inside some of the asteroids near Earth are projected to be trillions of dollars. Lunar mining is slightly different from asteroid mining because we are looking at water and regolith in this domain. Water is essentially a very huge requirement if we want to have long-term lunar missions, and if we want to have life support and fuel production on the moon. So lunar mining is very important in terms of the fact that we have to mine water from the lunar poles, lunar ice poles. And then regolith is another very fascinating idea, is that regolith, which is lunar soil, to be mined, which is going to be helpful in producing elements like helium-3 to have advanced fusion technologies for power generation. So space mining offers a great economic promise, lots of employment creation, and technological advancements here on Earth. Please, next slide. Mars colonization. We've seen how Sumana mentioned the condition of the Earth and how sustainability is very important. But if we foresee another virus such as COVID, which is maybe 100 times stronger, or we see the climate situation on Earth going to a very negative side, and life on Earth not being able to progress. So we have to look at other places on which human survival is the key. So we want to explore such trends which are being explored by various space agencies, especially NASA, and then private sectors such as SpaceX. It's a dream of Elon Musk to actually colonize Mars. So they all have seen how what importance of life beyond Earth and multi-planetary future. So this is also going to benefit humans. It's going to benefit the economic activity here and the technological advancements back here in Earth. Next slide, please. This is just a visualization of how life on Mars would be like. Next slide. Space-based energy potential. The platforms are space-based solar power. It's a revolutionary concept which can benefit us in a great way. Space-based solar power is basically putting solar panels on satellites or putting solar panels around the Earth's orbit. The major benefit it has is there is no interference. There is uninterrupted solar energy in the orbit, unlike here on Earth, because we have to utilize the daylight hours only. So space-based solar power offers immense promises in terms of uninterrupted solar power, and then we can actually utilize the solar panels on the orbit, converts those electrical energy into lasers and microwave beams, send it back to Earth, and reap the benefits of uninterrupted green energy. We don't have to use the land here on Earth. We don't have to have greenhouse emissions. It's a very sustainable way of generating power, uninterrupted and renewable energy back here on Earth. Next slide, please, which shows the concept diagram of space-based solar power, how in the orbit, how the solar panel is going to capture the energy from the sun and then transmit it back to Earth. Next slide, please. So space technology does not only benefit the aerospace domain or the space domain solely. It has an impact on various different industries. I have mentioned a few here. I'd go into details as well. Material science has space technology has advanced material sciences because of the need of lightweight, durable, heat-resistant elements. So there is a lot of R&D going on in that domain, and then it directly benefits industries like automotive, aviation, back on Earth. Robotics is something which is a key element to the space domain. So sophisticated robots are developed here and now and then for satellite servicing, for exploration, for assembly, and also for missions to other planets. So this has benefited the automation industry. AI has always been benefited and being widely used in the space domain, especially space mission planning and space navigation. So the advancement in the AI industry has benefited fields like healthcare, finance, and cybersecurity. Renewable energy, as I mentioned before, along as well, that advancements in solar power and energy efficiency for space technology has benefited Earth greatly. Miniaturization, in which we tend to make small satellites now that we are shrinking our satellites because we want to take the maximum benefit and reduce costs. So that's why we are miniaturizing the technology involved in as well. So this has had a direct impact in the medical industry, in consumer electronics. And I just wanted to ask from the audience some examples, but I cannot question right now. So maybe I'll tell you that digital cameras are a direct benefit to the people of the Earth because of research in space technology. So this is just one of the example, telemedicine, solar panels. So now we're using all of these technologies on a daily basis, but they have to thank space technology for all such advancements. Next slide, please. So I think Timo also talked about sustainable space economy. Sumana also her whole slides was focused on the sustainable space economy. So I'd just like to touch base on this this idea that it's not only the environmental concern, but also an economic imperative. So we have to conserve our resources. Space debris mitigation is very important for not only for the human lives on the ISS, but also to reap the true benefits of space technology. If we bring down the cost, if we include sustainable practices such as use of clean propellants instead of hydrogen, or and using maybe hydrogen peroxide as an alternative, we're going to increase the market confidence, bring in investors. A lot of international collaboration is going to take place. Good diplomatic ties between different governments, focusing on just one sole parameter of sustainability in space. So there is a role for the governments and the space agencies to play and commit to sustainability in the space industry. Next slide, please. So just to conclude my presentation with a little bit about Pakistan's commercial space program. In the past, in the 1960s, when SIPARCO was founded, this Pakistan space program was booming, but things started to go downhill, and now we are at a place in which Pakistan has no good share or chunk of the emerging and the ever-evolving global space economy. So Solenox Pakistan, the organization I work for, has taken up the mandate to revive the space technology facade of the nation through a strong partnership with the international partners, with the government of Pakistan, with industry and academia, both local and international. We are developing a project in which there are several phases, but we have to develop and launch satellites. The development of satellites would be indigenous. This is what the present is, and the future is that we are looking at the bigger goal of making Pakistan a spacefaring nation, in which we'll be able to access space on our own and be part of the global space economy by the year 2032, and have to and we dream about having some chunk of the global space economy by the year 2032 in a very sustainable manner, hopefully. Next slide, please. This is the end of my presentation, and I'm hoping to take your questions and queries at the end of this presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Daniel. I think even Sumana and also mentioned, even Daniel also mentioned during his presentation that uh, how we are benefiting from space technology. We are able to have data about Earth-based applications through Earth observation satellites and look into, for example, India, who is majorly based for agriculture, and how Earth observation satellites and how they're benefiting for disaster management, and how there are interesting trends that are happening actually and will be happening in the future as well. For example, like space mining, be it lunar mining or asteroid mining, and space tourism as well, which is going to be a really futuristic. We are looking at a futuristic growth for space tourism, and then these companies are looking at companies like Space Perspective, Axiom Space are building these suborbital space platforms and commercial space stations, which are going to be used at these in space. So thank you so much, Daniel, for your insights, for sharing on how we are benefiting from the space technology. Uh, Next, we have Rosie, who will be talking in terms of how Space Wales is leading, the way on space sustainability. Over to you, Rosie.
Fantastic. Thank you, Amy. Hi, everyone. So I'm Rosie from Space Wales, and today I'm going to be talking a little bit about the exciting future of space sustainability here in Wales. As a bit of a short overview case study, but also the importance of collaboration to work collectively towards a space-enabled net zero Earth. And no pressure to follow the fantastic presentation so far. So next slide, please, Amy. And firstly, a warm welcome to Wales, or Croeso Gymru in the Welsh language. I've made this a little tricky for you, Amy, as I've got things that appear on the slide as you click. So if you could click once so that the first box appears, please. Perfect, thank you. So as an introduction to Wales, we're a small country that forms part of the United Kingdom, and space industry is of a huge importance to us. The growth of the space sector really has the potential to help us to address some of the key issues that face planet Earth, but also challenges that we face in Wales itself. Wales itself has a population of about 3 million people, and that's about 5% of the overall UK population. And we've got a historical strength in aerospace. So Wales has about 10% of the overall UK aerospace workforce. So arguably punches above its weight in terms of that regard, but we are building on those strengths to help to grow our space industry as well. Next click, please. About 90% of land areas in Wales are used for farming, so with vast areas in the centre of the country, it's really important for us to support agriculture with things that have already been mentioned, earth observation, and also rural connectivity projects to support that as well. Next click, please. About 5% of Wales's economy owes to tourism. So we've already spoken about space tourism before, but the actual tourism within Wales is strengthened by the fact that we have a spaceport up in the north of Wales and also space centres and educational projects, and with things like planetariums that help bring money into the Welsh economy as well. And final click on this slide, please, Amy. And Wales has the ambition of becoming net zero by 2050 and is already starting to implement processes towards this. So it's really important for us to make sure that we're supporting this in terms of the space sector. And in line with this, Wales has set out to become the first sustainable space nation by 2040. And next slide, please. So in 2020, Space Wales was formed to champion the space industry in Wales. So we've got just over 60 member companies that span the country, and these span across multiple sectors, which if you click again, sorry, Amy, these should show up to show how diverse the space industry can be. So we've got companies that span from marine applications to optics to new space, which I already mentioned on launch technologies and satellite manufacturing, but also advanced power systems, so linking back to space-based solar power and energy as well. Next slide, please. So using all of this expertise, in 2021, we completed a space strategy called Wales, a Sustainable Space Nation. And in 2022, this was adopted by the Welsh Government as the official space strategy for Wales, which outlines all of our key strengths and ambitions and recommendations for the future. And some of the emerging key themes are on this slide that just show some of the things that we're working towards. But this includes our launch ecosystem, ensuring there's rural connectivity, using Earth observation to support with agriculture and rural areas as well, in-space manufacturing, and also secure communications and making sure that sustainability is a key pillar of all of those activities. Next slide, please. So to bring this to some of the technologies in line with the rest of the presentations that have been on today, split this into upstream and downstream, and we've heard a bit already about the issues regarding space debris and sustainability. So I won't go into the top paragraph here because Amy showed a very nice visualization of this, but it really is a key issue that we need to be acting on. So the pictures here highlight some of the companies that we have here in Wales that are doing work towards sustainability regarding new space. And we have more than just 3, but with regards to the 10 minutes of the presentation, I'll just talk about 3 now. But the first is Spaceforge, who I mentioned earlier, who are a Welsh-based company who are looking towards in-orbit manufacturing of advanced materials. So they have a platform called ForgeStar 1, which is going to launch from the US next year, which is really exciting. And that will be Wales's first satellite in orbit. But not only are they focused on launch and manufacturing materials, but they're also focusing on sustainable satellite return. So they will be reducing and mitigating that amount of space debris by having a fully reusable and returnable platform, and also being able to return other parts of space debris as well when they come back down to Earth. The second picture in the middle is a company called Small Spark Space Systems. So they're developing next generation rocket propulsion systems to support in-space logistics. So essentially an Uber for space to be able to service small satellites and therefore prolong the life and reduce the amount of space debris that we have. And finally, we have a company that's really using an alternate launch and recovery strategy, which suits the geography of Wales. So this is a company called B2 Space, who are leading the way in alternative sustainable methods for launch by using balloons, stratospheric balloons for access to space. So by using the balloons in the launch process, they're hoping to reduce the amount of fuel that's needed. It's about 70% reduction in traditional satellite launch to be able to launch via their balloon processes, and it also reduces the actual cost with reducing the amount of satellite fuel that's needed as well. Next slide, please. Fantastic. So also it's important to touch on the downstream applications. There's a huge amount of elements that downstream is really important to, which we've heard about through all of the slides so far. But really in Wales, we've got a lot of applications that come from developments from both industry and academia to help to understand, monitor and plan landscape changes using Earth observation. So we have a few initiatives and companies that are working towards this. One is called Environment Systems Limited, who use Earth observation to look at environmental and agricultural challenges. So that includes everything from looking at natural risk assessments across the world, banana crop monitoring in Colombia, and then also back to Wales, looking at farmer subsidy eligibility as well. And they're working with the Welsh Government to develop a future framework for future Wales before 2040 to make sure that sustainability is underpinned by all of the activities being in the agricultural sector. We also have universities working on Earth observation. So we have a project called Living Wales, which helps to capture the state and dynamics of Wales's landscape in near real time. So it can look into the future through integration of Earth observation data and also support ground measurements as well. And we have an Earth observation programme for Welsh universities, which is in collaboration with Planet Labs, who are one of the world leading providers of satellite imagery. And this provides potential benefits for Earth observation using remote sensing technologies, but also provides skills and training in using Earth observation data as well. Next slide, please. And Wales is committed to a range of policies and actions to support a sustainable future. So from introducing single-use plastic bag charges, high recycling rates, it might be a small country, but we have big and bold ambitions for a sustainable future. So we have the Environment Wales Act, which was launched in 2016, which puts into place legislation to plan and manage Wales's natural resources in a more proactive and sustainable joined-up way. And in 2015, we also passed a new law, the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act, which offers a huge opportunity for us to make a long-lasting and positive change to the way we do pretty much everything to ensure a bright future. And following this, Wales is now the home to the first Future Generations Commissioner, being the only country in the world to have legislated to protect the interests of future generations. And it's really their job to leave behind a better Wales and world for our children or the generations to come. And we also appointed a Minister for Climate Change in 2016, and all of the universities across Wales signed up to a commitment on climate change as part of a UK effort to confront the climate emergency. So it's fair to say Wales has sustainability at its core with all of the activities. Next slide, please. So I guess what are our current activities that are happening that are linking space and sustainability together to support with all of this? So working on a space strategy that was delivered last year, we are developing a sustainability roadmap to make sure we can map out the key actions and next steps to be delivering everything that we put out in that report. We're also supporting the sustainable space economy in defining sustainability and promoting its importance across the globe, and collaborating with like-minded partners to share practices together towards a more sustainable Wales and world. So just to echo, as with the other presentations, collaboration is key for this, and we're really happy to be a part of this to help spread the message. So with that, thank you very much. Huge thank you to BIS Research and Sustainable Space Economy and everyone who's on the session today, and happy to take any questions at the end of the session.
Thank you so much, Rosie, for diving us into what Space Wales is doing and how other companies in Wales are focusing on achieving those sustainable development goals in order to achieve that long-term space sustainability. Now, next we have Pekka, who will be speaking on the technologies for a sustainable use of space. Over to you, Pekka.
Okay, thank you very much and good afternoon to everybody. So my presentation will be kind of from the point of view of natural science. So I will try to come up with some, make some simple remarks and try to come up with some simple recipes, if you like, how to actually technically make space activities in a sustainable way. Next slide, please. So first of all, what is sustainability? So to me, sustainability just simply means that it's something which is long-term possible. So if something is sustainable, then this activity can continue for a long time, for an perhaps unlimited time. Whereas if it's not sustainable, then it must stop at some point, or at least change form. And in all cases, I mean, okay, so when I look at sustainability, I take a little bit more narrow point of view in this presentation. So I take the point of view of environmental sustainability. So I'm not looking at the economic sustainability, which is also, of course, crucially important. But in this presentation, it's about environmental sustainability. So, and then it's relevant that always one should identify the relevant natural background and then compare with that. So, for example, in assessing the potential environmental problem of satellites burning in Earth's atmosphere after end of life, one should compare with the natural the meteoroid flux, which is also entering the Earth's atmosphere. Or if one is concerned about the stratospheric emission of water vapor from launch vehicles, then one should compare with the natural flux of water from natural sources, such as equatorial thunderstorms, and so on and so on. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's first look at orbital debris. This has already been discussed in many presentations today. So what can we do with do about orbital debris? So the simple answer is that the altitude, the orbital altitude, is just very crucially important parameter. So if the orbital altitude is low, then it's already almost by definition sustainable, because then no matter what happens, even in the worst case, the problem that you create is not a long-term problem. So if you are flying at 400-kilometer altitude, then even if you collide with something else, or if you explode or whatever, the debris will not stay in orbit for more than 1 year, roughly. Of course, all these numbers will depend on the ballistic coefficient of the type of hardware that you have, but I mean these are typical values for typical satellites. Whereas if you use a high orbit, such as 900 kilometers, then you are potentially creating a 1,000-year problem, which is almost like can be compared to long-term radioactive waste or something like that. Completely different order of magnitude problem. So use low orbit if at all possible. If it's not possible, then one must do end-of-life deorbiting, for example, using the plasma brake that we have been developing. And then regardless of that, one should always do active collision avoidance during the mission. So all satellites should have some kind of at least rudimentary, very simple propulsion system in order to do a few centimeters per second delta V maneuvers to avoid predicted collisions with known debris objects, such as the Aurora resistor jet module, which is less than 100-gram package, which can do this kind of service. And then, of course, it's important to follow the already established practice of doing end-of-life passivation of tanks and batteries in order to avoid explosions in orbit. Next slide, please. Then preserving the night sky is one kind of emerging issue which is discussed, at least discussed to some extent. So just a few remarks about that. So light pollution from the satellite, it exists only when the satellite is in sunlight. And this the duration of how long this problem exists for one satellite, it depends on the orbit. So for example, in an equatorial orbit and low orbit, 350 kilometers, the satellite goes dark. I mean that it goes into Earth's eclipse already 75 minutes after sunset. After that, there is no light pollution anymore. And then the other point I want to make is that spy satellite builders probably have ideas how to make satellites less visible by using a combination of reflective and black surfaces. Next slide, please. Okay, and then there is the issue that what happens to a satellite or another space asset when it re-enters the Earth's atmosphere. So at least the European Space Agency is using the term D4D, which means designed for demise, for satellites, for a satellite which is designed to burn completely in atmosphere. And typically a rule of thumb is that if the satellite is less than roughly 500 kilograms, then typically it's demisable already without any major engineering effort. If it's much larger than that, then one has to pay attention to how to design it. So one has to design it in such a way that it breaks up very early in the re-entry phase into different parts, which themselves are further demisable. And in practice, this means that one should avoid things like thick-walled titanium tanks. I mean, that means high-pressure titanium tanks and other large monolithic parts that are made of high melting point materials, because they don't necessarily burn in the atmosphere during the re-entry. And of course, if the satellite is not D4D, then it's a public safety risk, potential public safety risk, unless it uses targeted deorbiting strategy to the Southern Pacific Ocean. But this targeted deorbiting is very costly because it requires, I mean, I don't know, I don't think there is any other way to do it except using a chemical thruster. Next slide, please. Okay, and then about launch vehicles. So launch vehicles, so one pollution that they produce is the debris into ocean. So if we use a reusable launcher system, launch vehicle, then there is no debris to ocean by definition. But then they also cause atmospheric emissions. Hydrogen is the worst type of fuel that one can possibly use because it's poisonous, carcinogenic, and also explosive and whatever. And that is much better. I mean, hydrogen is the worst. Then there is hydrocarbon, which is already much better. That generates about 50% water vapor emission and 50% carbon dioxide emission. And if one wants to eliminate the carbon dioxide emission from that, then one can use liquid hydrogen. That is an option. However, liquid hydrogen, when it burns, it also produces not only water vapor, but also hydrogen, raw hydrogen, which is also a potential pollutant in the atmosphere, although it's not generally viewed as such. And all these systems also produce water vapor, which is in the stratosphere, is basically also a pollutant. So the stratosphere is naturally very dry, and if one adds water in the stratosphere, then it might cause some consequences. One of the kind of concerns is that it might cause ozone depletion again, because this water vapor in the stratosphere might generate clouds in the stratosphere, and on the surface of these cloud ice crystals, there can be reactions that lead to ozone depletion indirectly. And then in theory, there is also ammonia fuel, which is in principle more clean than hydrogen itself, because when ammonia burns, it only produces water vapor and nitrogen, so it doesn't produce hydrogen at all. Next slide, please. Okay, and in all these cases, one should always compare with the natural background. So Earth, one thing is that Earth orbits are completely empty in their natural state. And by the way, this is one reason why I prefer to use the term orbital debris instead of space debris, because to emphasize that there are lots of objects in the solar system which is in the natural state is not empty. So asteroids and meteoroids exist in the solar system, and polluting the whole solar system is not really a concern in the foreseeable future. But Earth orbits, they are naturally completely empty, because the moon's gravity perturbation basically empties the Earth orbits. It ejects out objects from Earth orbits in millions of years time scale. Therefore, they are naturally empty. And then for objects burning in the atmosphere, the comparison point should be the natural the meteoroid flux. And unfortunately, for the meteoroid flux, this is not accurately known. So the estimates range, the uncertainty in the estimates is as almost 2 orders of magnitude, which is rather surprising, but this is the situation. So there is a lot of basic research to be done in order to assess the potential environmental burden of space activities in the long run. And then also about atmospheric pollution, it's also not so much is known. So CO2, the effect of CO2 is well known. It causes the greenhouse effect, global warming. But if you emit hydrogen or water vapor in the atmosphere in different places at different altitudes, it's much less clear what is the outcome of that. So the basic research is just not there yet. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so this is my summary. So okay, orbital debris is a concern, and there we can use deorbiting, plasma break, or low orbit, and then whatever we do, we should also have active collision avoidance during the active phase of the mission. The night sky light pollution, I would say it's probably not a serious problem in the long run. So, and a lot can be done to reduce the satellite brightness, although there is no 100% solution, but there is probably can be a very good mitigation of this problem. And then about demisability, so I would simply ask that why couldn't nearly all satellites just be demisable? So then we don't have this. Then we don't have this public safety risk, at least from them. And then about atmospheric pollution, okay, that I discussed. So hydrogen is already being phased out, and it's possible to eliminate the CO2 emissions completely if one uses hydrogen or ammonia, but not water vapor emission, which is also a potential has a potentially harmful effect in the stratosphere, but this is not well known. So I'm not ready to state where the risks actually are. And by the way, at the end, I want to make one remark concerning space-based solar power. I was very enthusiastic about space-based solar power about 15 years ago. But then I realized something. I realized that what is the orbit where you can actually do space-based solar power? It is the optimal orbit is a geostationary orbit, because then you can transmit always to the same ground station. But this is a problem from the orbital debris point of view, and to me it's rather frightening thought to have large solar power satellites in the geostationary orbit. If two such satellites collide, it is so big catastrophe that I wouldn't want to take that kind of risk, because that would basically pollute the whole geostationary orbit, make it unusable for solar power satellites, for any other satellites in one single event. So therefore, I'm unfortunately I'm no longer very enthusiastic about this space-based solar power thing. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there is a way how to make it work. But at least one has to look carefully into these proposals from the orbital debris point of view. Okay, thank you very much for your attention.
So thank you so much, Pekka, for providing your insights on what are the needed technologies to basically, we need to use in order to achieve those space sustainability. Obviously, I think over the entire presentation we have talked about orbital debris, space debris, and how companies need to come up with solutions. Obviously, there are several companies who are working on those solutions to mitigate the debris and to basically deorbit the satellites, or deorbit the inactive satellites. But still we have a long way to go in bringing up these solutions. And this is how both the government agencies, national space agencies, and how the new space participants or any companies coming into the space sector need to have in their solutions. So, some of the key takeaways that we have throughout the presentation is that yes, the new space market is growing steadily. We are seeing a lot of mega, launch constellations, and although there's these launches of small satellites, mega constellations, but this really takes us to a new concern, wherein what will happen if these satellites become inactive, and there will be space congestion, and there will be growing concerns for orbital debris or space debris, and creating more space junk. But now when we look at these things, we also have companies who are coming in the picture, wherein they're providing their in orbit services. For example, like Danya has spoken about space robotics. Now several companies have, they use space drones, or they have space robotic arms to basically service those satellites in space. And we have companies like Orbit Fab who are looking into in space refueling and in space manufacturing. Like Rajat has mentioned in the start of the webinar, that Airbus is working in an initiative and a project which is looking into in space manufacturing and assembly. But yes, there's still a need for space situational awareness in order to tackle all these concerns. We need evolving regulatory frameworks, wherein both like I mentioned again in the beginning of the webinar, that both the new space participants or any other companies established as well, and the government space agencies or the government agencies need to work together in order to build that framework, build those guidelines, in order so that we, the entire space industry, achieve those long-term space sustainability. Now, at to take you through, this is a slide on our BIS research production plan. Now, at BIS, when we come up with these new topics or new titles to work upon. We do understand, we do take into consideration what is happening in the industry, what are the technological trends that are happening in the industry, what companies are coming up with, and in accordance to that, we do bring up these market studies, syndicated report studies of ours, which you can see when you go through our website, at the BIS Research website. You can see all these published reports. Now we have focused on space situational awareness services market. We have focused on space in orbit refueling technology, space-based laser communication, satellite electric propulsion. Now, during throughout this year, we have published this report, and we have other upcoming reports as well. And you can see that again in our website. We have upcoming reports like large satellite propulsion and AOCS market, space-based thermal protection system market, and as well as space forces assessment. Now, this is one of those topics wherein how the military organizations in the world are assessing space, how they are going to leverage the small satellite constellations. Now, we also have Inside Monk. So Inside Monk is our AI-based platform. Now, this platform entails several publications that we have undertaken over the course of time, and which is curated for you, and you can filter according to your requirement. Now, this platform not only showcases you the our publications, but also allows you to engage with other industry experts. And this is not necessarily from only the aerospace and defense industry or the space industry, but also other verticals with whom BIS is closely associated with. Uh, Moving on to the next, now the floor is open for your questions. Feel free to put up your questions in the chat box, and we'll have a look at it.
So I understand that there must be one question to Pekka.
Yeah, on space-based solar power. Anybody wants to answer Pekka on that?
And then there
Pekka,
was
if you could, yeah.
then there was also what is the expert take on economical debris retrieval?
So I think we have one question. Can we salvage space debris? If yes, how can we do it?
Seems
Anyone?
like this question goes to Pekka, if Pekka wants to start.
What does salvage mean in this does it mean that how can we solve the orbital debris problem as such? I guess that's what the question means. So well, there is not one technology. So according to analysis, one should do also active debris removal. So one should bring down roughly 5 large satellites per year in order to keep the debris population stable, which means not growing slowly and exponentially. And then this collision avoidance, active collision avoidance for all new satellites should be implemented as a rule. And this deorbiting also to all new satellites, either by sufficiently low orbit, which is perhaps maintained propulsively during the active mission, and then the aerodynamic drag takes it down at the end naturally. Or if it's higher orbit, then there must be some deorbiting device, such as the plasma brake or propulsion system, which is sufficiently reliable to reduce the risk that this object will remain in orbit. So with these rules, the problem is solvable, and there is a lot of room for a large number of satellites in the sky, in principle, if these rules are followed.
Okay. Another question we have is, what's the expert take on economical debris retrieval? What are your thoughts on that, Timo?
I think this is more like technological question still, and forwarded to Pekka. Sorry about Pekka.
Okay.
Again, I didn't quite understand the question. Can you repeat it?
What's the expert take on economical debris retrieval?
Debris retrieval. So does it mean that could we use the debris for something useful, some useful purpose? So I guess that's what the question means. So yes, I mean, instead of deorbiting orbital debris, we could also use the debris as raw material for building new space objects, and this would be an excellent practicing ground for things like lunar and asteroid mining. So we could develop and test and use the same type of robotics that we later need in asteroid mining, lunar mining, in low Earth orbit, in order to generate income and also to reduce the amount of debris.
Okay. So I think we have a question for Sumana. Is there a possibility to develop space degradable material?
Sorry, could you please repeat? Space degradable material.
Material, yeah. Is there a possibility to develop space degradable material?
Like, you mean if you send it to space and somehow, one possibility I can think of is like morphosis, like if you send something, let's say, that's already being done, let's say it's a satellite, the mission is over, and now what do you do with the leftovers? And a lot of companies are trying to do on-orbit servicing, and they try to repair the satellite or try to use some subsistence of it for continuous mission. But material as such, space in general, microgravity platforms offer a lot of innovations in material science as well. That's what's being done on the International Space Station because of the lack of so much gravity on Earth. Crystallization occurs in a different way in space. So yes, material development, material use, that's a very core research area in space, especially on the International Space Station. I would love to reach a point where we would have materials, like you said, space degradable. Once its mission is done, it just vaporizes, vanishes, or happens something to it. I would love, but to the best of my knowledge, we haven't reached that age yet. I would love to be there someday. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, definitely. So I think we're still one answer away for Pekka on the space-based solar power. Daniel, if you want to give your thoughts on the question given by Pekka during his closing remarks.
Okay, sorry. Can you just repeat the question again?
Yeah, well, I guess the question boils down to what is the orbit of a space-based solar power satellite, and then how is that orbit made sustainable from the point of view of the potential generation of orbital debris. And I was concerned that if that orbit is very high, such as a geostationary orbit, then any debris generated there has basically very long lifetime. And if there's a lot of mass in this solar power system, then there is a potentially large amount of debris. So this was my concern. But the question is that what is the relevant orbit that you were kind of thinking about in terms of space-based solar power?
So to the best of my knowledge, it is a low Earth orbit. It's not a geostationary orbit, obviously, because of the fact that the main problem is going to come when we are transmitting the laser back to Earth. So it is generally a low Earth orbit. And then the debris mitigation that comes at a later stage, because I mentioned space-based solar power because it's not yet performed. It's just something that we can benefit from in the future. So these nitty-gritties, maybe they have to be sorted out later on, but it has to be a low Earth orbit for sure because of the fact that communication between the Earth and the solar panel is much more vital because there is abundant sunlight available in space when we talk about actually harnessing the space, the sunlight there in space. So there's no problem with having a higher orbit, but having a lower Earth orbit is very vital because we have to transmit that power back to Earth. But then at a later stage, when there is R&D and there is a problem with the sustainability, the concerns, especially having such massive bodies up in the orbit. So that comes at a later stage. I just mentioned this SBSP because of the fact that it's up and coming and we can benefit greatly from such a technology. I hope this answers your question.
So I think we are at the end of our session. Thank you for everyone who has posted those questions over the chat. For anybody who wants to again post their questions, and we will please do share those questions over email. Rest assured, we will get back, right to you with the answers over email. Now, if you have any, questions related to the Insight Monk as well, please do email us. We will get back to you. We can schedule a demo for you, and we can take you through what BIS Research offers. Now, we are at the end of this session. Thank you again to all the speakers and the attendees for this wonderful webinar session. Have a great evening, everyone.